beyond on the vast and ludicrously powerful microphones of FSR emanating live from the machine, just a cog in the audio machine. We are broadcasting live from the TireRack.com studios. TireRack.com will help you get there. An unmatched selection, fast free shipping, free road hazard protection, and over 10,000 recommended installers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be. And our lead this hour coming from the NFL will start in Foxborough, where Bill Belichick this week got on the old soapbox and gave a lecture. He was preaching about the salary cap. If you heard this, you might have heard about it. Maybe you heard it, maybe not. Belichick grumbling that the teams who overspend cannot have long-term success, and it will come back to bite them in the badonkadonk. Belichick did not use the word badonkadonk, but that is the story there. Now, during his weekly radio appearance, paid radio appearance there in Boston, Belichick said the Rams and Buccaneers are currently dealing with the consequences from their actions of overspending. And Belichick said, quote, "You can't sustain the 20 years of success that we sustained by overspending every year without having to eventually pay those bills and play with a lesser team." Is that like a team? I'm paused right there. Is that like a team that goes 500 over the last 3 years? No, I'm just asking. I'm asking for a friend. Belichick went on to say, I think that if you look at the teams that have done that, that's where they ended up. He mentioned Jacksonville in 2014, the Rams, Tampa. He says they're going through it right now. So that is the quote from Bill Belichick. Let us discuss the question on this one, the question about Bill Belichick and his rant as we parse the words of Bill Belichick. What is your perspective on Bill Belichick giving a lecture about overspending and the bad things that will happen if you overspend, and essentially saying that overspending the NFL is just terrible for business? Just terrible.
I think I've covered it.
Now, I've got Etch-a-Sketch, Lasorda, and Battle Cry. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some Cool Whip is what we're going to make. That's what we're going to make. Why not? Soft and fluffy. All right, so to lead off here, it is very rare these days that Bill Belichick says anything that has substance to it. Now, he does things which we find interesting because I guess we still get a kick out of his goofing with the writers and all that act that Belichick does where he doesn't answer any questions. But this was actually an answer that Belichick gave. So we thank him for feeding the Sports Talk collection plate. But as to the crux of the matter and what Bill Belichick actually said there, in this one, Belichick is working at a bodega. He's in the back of the bodega. He's making hoagies. And those hoagies are full of baloney. Because Belichick on this one is full of baloney. The Patriots' sustained success was not because they were cheap. It was not because they were tightwads. It was because Tom Brady was better than all the rest. And Brady didn't always take the lesser money. He took a lot of the time less money, but it wasn't always where he took less money. And he was so good and so much better in big moments that the Patriots were able to make it work. It also helped that the Bills were incompetent for years. Miami Dolphins, incompetent for most of that. And the Jets. So you're in a soft division. You beat up on those opponents. And you ended up having some things go your way in the playoffs. Whoop-de-damn-do. Congratulations. Now, I like the fact that Bill Belichick is deflecting attention away and defending Bob Kraft. So he's got the daily double here. Not only does he deflect away from the Patriots' frugal ways, but he also defends essentially Robert Kraft, the owner there. Why spend more when you can pocket that money? Just go for it. Just pocket the money. What the heck? Why not? Pocket the excess. As the Patriots head coach, running the team, he's essentially the general manager also, right, for all intents and purposes. I guess they might have someone else in there that handles the bookkeeping, but Belichick makes the decisions. The Patriots heading into this season are currently 31st in the NFL in cash spending. Let me ask you a question. Now, everyone will get this right except JJ and Renton. How many teams are in the NFL? That's right, 32. And if you're 31st out of 32, my computer-like brain tells me there is one team, only one team that is worse off than the New England Patriots in cash spending. Now, the Ravens lead the NFL in money spent, $304 million in active cash spending. The Patriots are about $100 million behind. So you're talking about the discrepancy between like the San Diego Padres and the Kansas City Royals is what you're talking about, the top team versus the bottom. I mean, now, there's no guarantee the Ravens are going to be any good, and guys could get hurt, and they could suck, and Lamar Jackson could continue to regress like he did last year. All of that is true. But the effort is being made paying players that the front office in Baltimore think are going to be pretty good. Now, maybe they won't be good, but the effort was made. And the old line they use is the hay's in the barn. The front office put the hay in the barn. They put the team on the field, and if the team goes to hell, that's fine. The Patriots, can you say the same thing about the Patriots? They've nickel and dimed it. They've used some duct tape and a pocket knife, and they're trying to make it work. And the Patriots look to be about the same team they've been. They're around a 500 team. Get a couple of breaks, they can win 10 games. Things don't go right, they go 7-10 or 6-11. Something along those lines. But the big thing here is if you look going forward, the following year, 2024, the Patriots are going to be dead last in cash spending. Now, they could always change that and go out and spend some money. And if you want to bet on that, just send me your money instead. I'll make better use of it. But anyway, the mindset, I would like to think the real hardcore fan of teams like the Patriots do not approve of it. But I'm convinced a high percentage of Patriot fans have bought into the dogma that it's the Patriot way and they've just done things better and differently over the years, and so they know better than all the other teams. When it's really a great con is what it is. And I always look at it this way. Like I like the Dodgers, right? I'm a Dodger fan. They spend a lot of money. They also charge a ton of money. And so my theory has always been that as a fan, if you fork over your money to support a team, and they keep raising the prices of the tickets and the concessions and the beers and the nachos and the pretzels and all the crap that you buy at the stadium, that is discretionary spending. That money that you spend at a sporting event or a concert, that's money that you don't need to survive, but you spend it because you find entertainment, and human beings need entertainment, and so you get entertainment out of it, and that's great. But to me, there's a partnership that if you're going to spend the money, your hard-earned money, the team needs to reinvest some of that money, a high percentage of that money, to put a good product on the field. And as for the Rams and Buccaneers, who both stink, right? They're top mediocre teams. Like Tampa has a chance at the playoffs because they're in a terrible division. But the Rams are going to be pretty bad this year. But they both won Super Bowls. And the way I look at the NFL and all sports, it's like team building is an Etch-a-Sketch, if you know what that is. This toy back in the day, the Etch-a-Sketch. And so you could draw the most amazing photo, on the Etch-a-Sketch. Could be detailed, could be amazing, could be like a Bob Ross painting of a landscape, but it's all on the Etch-a-Sketch. And at some point, you're going to shake it up and destroy whatever you made and then start over. And that's what happens. And the Rams won a Super Bowl, and that was worth it. And they'll stink for a couple years, and then they'll be back, and they'll be contending for a Super Bowl again. It's the circle of life. Same thing with Tampa Bay. They went for it. They had a chance to get Tom Brady. They got Tom Brady, and it worked out pretty well for a couple of years. It was a storybook time, and now it's back to reality. Now, furthermore, speaking of reality, we have a shakeup in Arizona. Kyler Murray, better known on this show as Alligator Arms Murray, will officially miss at least 4 games and likely a lot longer than that. And also, veteran backup Colt McCoy has been fired. Given a pink slip, he's unemployed. So who's left? Joshua Dobbs, who they picked up 4 or 5 days ago from the Cleveland Brownies, and someone named Clayton Tune. It's Toontown, 5th-round pick out of Houston, and he could be the starting quarterback. Now, my favorite part of the story, this guy named Jonathan Gannon, who's apparently the head coach of the Cardinals. He came over from the Eagles as the defensive coordinator. He said he was asked, "Hey, who's your starting quarterback?" And he refused to say. Why did he refuse to say? He was worried about giving up a competitive advantage to the Washington football team, who Arizona plays the opening game of the NFL season. Keep in mind, I'm relatively confident that is the biggest point spread in Week 1. Normally, the point spreads are not that lopsided in Week 1 because it's really the first game everyone's played. Nobody takes those exhibition games seriously. And so there's usually a feeling out process, kind of like a boxing match where the games are closer. There's not a lot of separation. Most teams haven't had too many injuries, so everything's kind of neck and neck to begin the year. But that game, last I checked, it was a 7-point line in favor of the home team, Washington. They're not even supposed to be that good. So explain why the Cardinals are futzing around in naming a starting quarterback. So the easy answer here is the coach, Jonathan Gannon, is a beetle brain. He's a dum-dum, if you will. And the Cardinals' options, on one side of the room, you have a bag of boogers. On the other side, you've got a box of turds. Those are the options. That's who you have at quarterback if you're the Cardinals. You think Ron Rivera is losing sleep listening to our show? He's concerned about which of these two guys is going to play, or maybe they'll play both of them? Oh, man, that would be a nightmare. And I'll tell you what Ron Rivera is doing. He's quoting the late Tommy Lasorda. Lasorda had a great line. He's going to send a limousine, Ron Rivera. He's going to send a limousine to the airport to make sure that both Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune show up to the stadium on time and are on the field, because that is a show up and collect a win situation is what it is. Now, what are the odds that Kyler Murray plays another game in a Cardinal uniform? And they're very low. He's going to miss the first 4 games, but likely a lot longer than that. What I had heard from someone who claims to know is that most likely scenario is Kyler Murray will be available around week 8 or 9, possibly week 10, somewhere in that window. So let's do a little project here, you and I. The Cardinals, if you look at the Cardinals right now, they are a smoldering dumpster fire, and they want to be worse than they are right now. So I think there's a less than 10% chance that Kyler Murray ends up playing another game for the Cardinals, because if he's able to come back, let's say week 9, he's able to come back, and the Cardinals have a terrible record, and they're ahead in the race for the number 1 pick to try to get Caleb Williams, why would they toss Murray out there? I'm not a Murray fan, but he's got a better chance of having some success than these other 2 bozos who they're going to go with. Now, parting shot. Ahead of NFL roster cut-down day, always a favorite day at the Maller household, the Philadelphia Eagles made a rather interesting move. The Birds announced they had signed former Colts defensive back Isaiah Rodgers. Now, why is he someone we know? Isaiah Rodgers, if that name does not ring a bell, is currently serving a indefinite, possibly lifetime suspension from the NFL for gambling. He's the Pete Rose of the NFL. He went next level. He made around 100 bets. Now, they were small bets, but he also bet on the NFL. He bet on his own team, bet a prop bet on rushing yards for the Colts, a Colts running back. Now, because of this, he was handed that indefinite suspension from the NFL, and he can't even appeal until next year. So he's out for the year. He was released by the Colts, and Philadelphia picked him up. So why would the Eagles add Isaiah Rodgers from the suspended list and put him on their suspended list? And the answer here is because of the NFL's battle cry. It is the battle cry. Teams like the Eagles will overlook pretty much anything if a player is actually perceived to be good. And clearly, Philadelphia thinks that Isaiah Rodgers is going to be a premier kick returner, and he can help them out in the secondary if he ever plays again. So they're taking a futures bet, some terminology that he would be familiar with, that Rodgers will be able to come back.